That was cool. Just met a little kid, asked him if he wanted to start my bike. He said yes. So let him start it. Motorcycling requires a complex set of skills. How often are you practicing the most least used of those skills? That's what I'm going to talk about today. This is Jim, and welcome back to J Street Moto. Welcome to the channel if it's your first time. I watch a lot of YouTube, and a lot of the content I watch is motorcycle related. Out of that motorcycle content that I watch, I'd say about a third of it are sites or channels that at some point in time they're going to be stunt riding. You know, popping wheelies, doing burnouts, drifting, that kind of stuff on Harleys. But you've got Cruisy Originals, thrashing, East Coasting, all these places where guys go and, you know, where they're doing stunts during their videos. And in most of those channels, at least one episode a month, they have lot days where they go to the lot. And that got me thinking, it's like, is lot time just for stunt riders? I don't think it is. One of the other guys I watch on YouTube is Moto Jutsu and MC Rider. Both of those are excellent channels from an information perspective and an education perspective. Those guys are both very experienced riders and teachers. I suggest watching them from time to time too. I am not a motorcycle instructor, so all of this is going to be more something I thought of versus how to do a particular thing. But I hope you hang around anyway, because I'm hoping that maybe you'll hear something that triggers something in you, and it might, you know, help you one day. Every one of us that rides, there are certain things that we do every single time we throw a leg over that motorcycle. We are guaranteed to do those things. Some of the less frequent things we do, U-turns. In the United States, I would say probably 80 to 90% of the U-turns you're going to make in the United States are going to be to the left, not to the right. Reason for that is the side of the road we damn drive on. Some of the most least common things that we do on a motorcycle, just in our everyday riding, are emergency avoidance maneuvering, emergency stopping or braking. We don't do that shit every time we go out. At least I hope you're not having to do that every time you go out. In real life, I've had to emergency stop this motorcycle 3 times from a decent speed, I would say. I've had to do emergency avoidance maneuvers only once. And there's a story behind that one that I'll tell you here in a few minutes. So I was thinking about it, and I'm like, how often do we, as riders, practice the things that we aren't going to necessarily do every time we go out? Because as human beings, we're creatures of habit. I am a Navy vet. I spent about 4 years on a submarine and 6 years in the Navy. I am a martial artist. Those are just a couple of the hats that I wear, like many of you. We all may have multiple hats, right? What the military and martial arts taught me, there's a saying that I heard in both places, and it really kind of resonated with me. It made sense. You don't do it until you get it right. You do it until you can't get it wrong. I want you to think about that for a minute. Because the hidden message within that is a recognition that human beings are creatures of habit. And if you practice something wrong repetitively over and over and over again, That's exactly how you're going to do it when you need to do it. If you don't practice it at all, you don't know what you're going to do when you need to do it, even if you know what the right thing is to do. So I have a question for you, and if you feel comfortable, leave it in the comments. If you're truly honest with yourself, what are the things that you potentially would have to do on your motorcycle in order to keep from laying the bike down, injuring yourself, or potentially dying, that you are not very confident with, that you're not very comfortable with, and that you do not do very often? I'll tell you what some of them are for me. Right-handed U-turns, because I don't do them that often. Unless I intentionally go somewhere to practice those things, I don't do them that often. So I'm not as confident with my right-hand U-turn as I am with my left-hand U-turn, because they are different. I'm not very confident. I mean, I can do them, but I'm not very comfortable doing really slow speed, tight U-turns. I think the figure eights you have to do at the MSF course. Not very confident doing those. Emergency braking. What I mean by that is going from 35 or 40 miles an hour to 0 as fast as your bike will physically allow you to do that. If you are lucky and you have a motorcycle with anti-lock brakes, like I do, you're not going to lock your wheels up, but you are going to engage your anti-lock braking system. That's another question for you, and if you feel comfortable, leave it in the comments. If your motorcycle has anti-lock brakes, have you ever intentionally engaged them so that you could feel what they feel like when they are working? If you have, how often do you do that? So drop your answers in the comments. If you don't have anti-lock brakes, how often do you try to take your bike from a reasonable cruising speed that you would be doing just around town when you're in the most traffic, and when you have the highest likelihood of someone doing something stupid around you? How often do you take your bike from those speeds to 0 as fast as you can do it? And do you know what the distance is that you need to be able to do that for each of those speeds? I don't do it enough. Emergency avoidance maneuvers. How many of you practice those? I do practice those, and because of it honestly, I believe it saved my life. I'm going to tell you a short story. I promise it's a short story. During the second California trip on our way home, the next to last day of the trip, we were heading into West Virginia. And we ended up, because of some construction and shit, we ended up on this country road going through the mountains. And when I say mountains, most of the road was a solid cliff on one side and a solid drop off on the other. And it was barely wide enough to be considered 2 lanes. Along that road, and I'm in the back, Juan and David are in front of me. Along that road, we hit a switchback, and this was a really tight switchback. It's damn near a left-handed U-turn at 10 miles an hour that went around a cliff that was sticking out into the road. So it meant that as I'm approaching that turn, I can't see what's on the other side of that curve. I slowed down because I couldn't see. I came around that curve, and as soon as I got around that curve and could see on the other side of that cliff, I was looking at the grill or the front end of a tractor trailer pulling a load. And he was in my lane. Talk about a pucker factor, and he was moving pretty good. I had to swerve out of the way quickly to miss being his hood ornament. And where I was at along that road, over to the side of the road, the asphalt dropped off about 8 inches into a section of gravel that gravel was maybe a foot wide, and after that gravel, sheer cliff drop off. So I had to do an emergency maneuver, slam on my brakes, stop, drop 8 inches, land in gravel, and keep it from falling off the side of a cliff. If I hadn't been practicing that shit, I know I would be not with you today. So I encourage you all, go to the lot and practice those things. But when you practice them, I also want you to think about it and be mindful. This is really where I was going with this whole thing, because this is where my thought process went. A lot of this stuff I do practice. I go to the lot and I'll fuck around and I'll practice it. But it got me thinking, I'm like, you know what I don't do? And I'm practicing this stuff, usually on days that are really good conditions. I won't say all the time optimal, but certainly dry, warmer weather. It got me thinking, I'm developing habits because of how I'm practicing it and when I'm practicing it. It might benefit me to go to the lot when it's freaking raining really hard with my rain gear on and practice the same things, because I need to know, how is my bike going to react when I do something I've only ever practiced on perfect conditions? How is it going to react when the conditions are not perfect? When it's a really cold day and you got to put on all your gear, the more gear you put on, I don't know about you, but the more gear you pull on, the less mobility I have. I'm carrying around more shit. It's just, stuff doesn't happen as quickly. So go out, put on, all the layers you put on to ride in 20-degree weather, and see how good you do at those same maneuvers. In other words, be mindful about your training. Understand that you are creating habits, and that those habits are going to pretty much be how you're going to react on the motorcycle. Your brain's not going to sit there and think, oh, well, it's raining. Because when shit hits the fan, the part of your brain that thinks is no longer available to you. You are in reaction mode. You really are. You're in reaction mode. Your reaction mode, it's only going to do what you've trained. And if you haven't trained it in the circumstance that you're in, you might do the wrong reaction. That's kind of what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. I appreciate you hanging around. Hopefully you got something out of this. Hopefully it makes you think about some stuff. Makes you evaluate how good of a rider you are. Because I don't care whether you ride, 1,000 miles a year or 1,000 miles a day. Pretty sure all of us have room for improvement in the complex skills that it takes to ensure that no matter what we face, we can do everything we can do to make sure we get home. There are certain circumstances where it doesn't matter. There's nothing you can train for to help you get through certain things. There just isn't. I'm a big advocate of prevention is worth a pound of cure, especially when it comes to this stuff, guys. The reality is, it is a complex skill. You're doing different things with each hand and each foot all at the same time sometimes, in an environment where you're surrounded by people that don't give two shits, and that for the most part are pretty much trying to kill you. Trying to kill you. Because they're not paying attention to you. Their phone's more important. And they don't care. They're protected. You aren't. Do everything you can do to protect yourself. A huge advocate of that. Yes, the more you ride, the better you're going to be at certain skills. But unless you're practicing the skills that you suck at to begin with, or that you don't do all the time, you're not going to be good at those skills. You just aren't. I guarantee you you're not. And if you're honest with yourself, you'd agree with me. You'd say, you know what, Jim, you're right. I'm not good at that. I have never once locked the brakes up on my motorcycle at 40 miles an hour to see how it was going to react. Never once done that. not intentionally. Maybe it's time to do it. Hope you guys are getting out riding. Hope you guys decide to go to a lot and practice some stuff. Because at some point, I'd like to run into some of you. I'd like to meet you out on the road one day. Somewhere, if we run in randomly. On that note, I know I'm not that popular of a rider on YouTube. I don't have that big a following. But I will make this commitment. The first person that walks up to me when they see me in public and knows who I am, they walk up and they go, "Hey man, you're J Street Moto. You are going to be in one of the videos. Promise you. I'll make you famous on YouTube." All right, guys, I'm almost at the office. I figured I'd take you in on my commute and talk about this while we were on the way in. Like, subscribe, click the notification bell. Always ride safe. Yeah, ready? 1, 2, 3, shoot. Ah. Asshole.
Really? Peace out, bitches!